Getting nerds, we're explaining Hearts of Iron 4. We're just going to head straight back in here to the tech tree. So deciding between dispersed and concentrated industry is an important decision you've got to make. You've got to make it pretty early on in the game. But basically, the decision you have to make, and the decision I generally make, is, do I think I'm going to be bombed? If so, I'm going to go with dispersed. If I think I'm not, or if I think I'm only going to be bombed a little bit, I'm going to go with concentrated. And that's basically the way it works. The computer does strategic bombing with a certain amount, but they're not very good at it, so I almost always go with concentrated industry, even if I'm playing a country that's likely to suffer a lot of bombing, like Germany is. But there are definitely situations where dispersed industry is the right call, just that I can get this massive factory bomb vulnerability bonus. Oh, the bomb vulnerability bonus goes down. It's 15% at the top here, but it's only 10% in these lower ones. So it maxes out at 55%, not 75%. That's my bad. There's a lot more really important stuff here in the industry table here. On production, you get production efficiency cap. This represents basically how what percentage of your production you can get out of your factories. It starts at base cap is 50%, and the more of these technologies you get, the higher the cap goes, up to 100% at the very bottom. And that just lets you get more out of your factories. It's very straightforward. It's very important. Another really important one is construction over here. This lets you get increased repair speed and construction speed. And the offshoot of construction over here is excavation, which gives you extra resource gain efficiency. That increases the amount of resources that are in each of your states, which is very important. Having faster construction speed lets you build factories faster. That lets you accelerate your military development faster. So on the whole, this is an extremely important tab. And as long as you've got the research slots for it, it is vital to keep it up to date. Not necessarily excavation. You can kind of sleep on excavation. And then there's synthetics, which are their whole own animal. But this stuff here is very important. Over here on synthetics, you've got fuel storage here in this slot. This lets you build fuel silos that hold fuel. That's something you need to wage a war, particularly if you've got a large Air Force, Navy, or mechanized or armored forces. You're going to need a lot of fuel. Synthetic oil experiments lets you build something called synthetic refineries. Those provide both rubber and fuel. They are very expensive to build, but the benefits are enormous. Alternatively, over here we got these fuel refining bonuses. So, and everything down here improves the effectiveness of synthetic refineries. So on this side we've got rubber, which is each synthetic refinery provides +1 additional rubber. And then over here we've got oil processing, which is 50% extra fuel from synthetic refineries. So synthetic refineries produce, I think, 48 fuel and 1 rubber a pop. Here, if you only research this, and once you've researched everything, it's like 120 something fuel and 5 rubber a pop. Alternatively, over here, if you've got a lot of natural oil resources, you can go for the fuel refining ones. These take forever to research, but they provide a 20% gain bonus to fuel per oil, which is really important if you're either extracting a lot of oil or buying a lot of oil. So this side's the side you want if you want a lot of oil. If you're getting your fuel from refineries, you're going to want to do this side. And then rubber's always good to have more of. If you don't have a lot of rubber and you can't buy it within your customs union, sorry, not your customs union, that's a Victoria 3 thing. If you can't buy it from the market, or you're at war with all the people who are producing it, you're going to need to use synthetic refineries for that. Alright, so these are important for waging wars. Next is electronic engineering, or engineering more generally. This is kind of funny because it's got one section over here that starts at 1936 and another section over here that starts at 1940, and these don't line up, which is definitely going to bother some people. I know people who it bothers, but they wanted to keep the trees next to each other, all in the same tree. So we have electronic engineering over here and atomic research and rocketry over here. The primary benefit of electronic engineering is researching these is going to give you research speed bonuses. You can get 3% up here with electronic mechanical engineering, 4% here with mechanical computing, 5% here with computing machine, 8% here with improved computing machine, and 8% here with advanced computing machine. Extra research speed is really, really good. Lets you get a lot of things you're going to need in life. These are the fire control systems for ships. They make the ships more dangerous, and that's an important thing to have. And then over here we have radio, which provides reinforced rate and coordination bonuses, and radio detection, which enables radar stations. And all of these are just upgraded radar stations. And some of them unlock improved radios for your ships and tanks. That's the engineering tree. It's moderately important. Like, if I'm a major and I've got a lot of research slots, I'm going to try to keep this up to date because that provides extra research speed for all the other slots, and that's really important. Next, we'll move along to the other land techs. You can see these are sorted. We got civilian here in gold, Air Force here in red, Navy here in blue, and Army here in green. So let's continue on with those. Next is support companies. The support equipment research here is just the baseline requirement for all different types of support companies. Then these types of support companies require trucks, and this last one requires radio. You're not going nowhere fast if you don't have those in terms of these research, these types of support companies. At the bottom here, you got your trains. This is your basic train. It costs 70 to produce. This is your war austerity train. It costs 50 to produce, but otherwise doesn't have any benefits over the basic train. There's the armored train here, which costs 105 to produce, but it's got air attack and armor. So if it's being bombed, it can fight back. And then below here, you got these big boy railway guns, which are a really weird, funny animal. Penalty. Oh, interesting. They reduce fort bonuses for enemies. So that's pretty neat. Railway guns are kind of silly, but I think they're fun, and everyone likes them, so they're in the game. They eventually got into the game. It took a lot of years. So, let's go through the support companies and what they do. And basically, the 1936 tech is going to unlock them, and 1939, 42, and 45 techs are going to increase their effectiveness. Here we got engineer companies. Those provide a bunch of different bonuses. They provide speed and defense bonuses for a bunch of different types of terrain, and then attack bonuses on amphibious landing and against forts, which is pretty good. They also increase entrenchment. I have so far not been successful at figuring out what the actual entrenchment stat does. I think it's maximum entrenchment, but I could be wrong about that, so don't take my word with a grain of salt. I think it's only maximum entrenchment. Entrenchment is the ability of units to sit down in a spot and build up defenses around them. All units have it, and having engineering companies lets you do it, I think, more, but it might be faster. I'm not sure. So just full disclosure on that. Company 2 gives an additional entrenchment bonus and increases the fort attack and defense bonus. It also unlocks some fancy tank tech, dozer blades, and flamethrowers, and flamethrower tank companies. This one gives extra attack and defense on rivers, extra entrenchment, and extra attack against forts, cities, and against forts and cities for the flame tanks. And finally, this does the same thing, as well as providing a base attack and defense bonus in urban environments. So that's engineering. They're very useful. These ones are also pretty low in... It doesn't say what they are over here, but it cost a pretty low amount of support equipment. Next, you got your recon companies. These unlock 4 different types of recon companies: cavalry, motorized, light armored, and armored. Light armored use armor cars. Armored uses light tanks. Motorized uses trucks, and cavalry uses just infantry equipment. So far, the game has not chosen to represent horses, and it's an interesting decision. I think ultimately, trying to represent horses in the game would be pretty difficult. So I appreciate that they haven't gone to the complexity of it, but it's certainly something they could do. Recon companies provide something called, where is it? called reconnaissance. Huh, that was dumb of me. Basically, reconnaissance is kind of an abstract. It's not abstract. It's hard to understand, is what it is. But basically, it affects how good your units generals are going to be at selecting a tactic that will counter the enemy general's tactic in a situation where they're a better general than you. That's what recon does, as well as providing some bonuses to movement in a bunch of different types of environments. What type of environment you get your movement bonuses in varies based on type of recon. I don't want to get into that. It's real technical. Next, you have your military police. Military police used to not be very good, and they're really good now. Stay hydrated, but don't pour water in your lungs, kids. It's not very good for you. Military police provide something called a suppression bonus. I think they also provide a division recovery rate bonus now, but I'm not sure. That's not anywhere here, and I would need to jump through a bunch of hoops to check, so we're not going to worry about that. Suppression represents a division's ability to suppress resistance. So military police are really useful if you're going to be occupying a lot of foreign territory, and you need to have divisions that are good at that. Maintenance increases the reliability of equipment in the division, as well as providing a small amount of equipment capture ratio. This does give you some really silly situations, like, for example, I know this was an exploit. I don't know if it's been fixed or not, but there was a period in history where if you had maintenance and anti-aircraft units together in a division and you were being bombed by enemy casts, you would destroy some enemy casts with the anti-aircraft, and then some of it would be captured by you because you have the equipment capture ratio bonus here. Which meant that you could have an army that could deploy its own air force by shooting down and fixing up enemy planes. It's very funny. I don't know that it was ever a defining factor in anyone's strategy, but it was a neat, weird little thing. In any case, maintenance is very good for increasing reliability, and increasing reliability is very important for armored units, which is why maintenance often goes in those. Field hospitals, you have... these are very critical. They provide two things called experience loss and trickleback. Manpower trickleback is damage to units that reduces manpower, puts a small amount of it back into the manpower pool up here. In other words, units that get killed are restored back to fighting health. It also reduces experience lost from losses, which is super duper important. You get 10% of each of those per level. So by the time you're up here, if you have minus 40% experience loss and 40% manpower trickleback and war support protection, that's all very good. War support protection just means the amount of war support you lose from taking casualties. So field hospitals cost a lot of support equipment and motorized, but they're very good to have, particularly in divisions that are going to see a lot of action. These are logistics companies. They reduce supply usage by 10% and fuel usage by 5% per level. That's absurdly strong, particularly in the very late game when you're going to have huge amounts of units all packed in together in fairly small fronts, or even in large fronts, frankly. You get like Germany versus the USSR. You get these huge piles of infantry. Having logistics is very, very important for keeping your supply usage low, because you're going to need a lot of supplies to supply those huge units. Then signal companies produce something called initiative. Initiative, I think, also has to do with tactic selection. I'm not sure exactly how it compares with recon. These used to provide a coordination bonus, so I'm not sure exactly how that works now, but that's what they do. Next, we're going to go to artillery. Artillery's got 3 trees here. So that's basically everything under support. Next we're going to go to artillery. Artillery's got 3 kind of legs of this tree. Well, actually 4 if you count the rocket set. But basically, here's how they work. You got your mainstream artillery. These are going to unlock new types of artillery, as well as tank guns, and particularly tank howitzers. You got your anti-tank over here. These are going to unlock tank guns, particularly direct fire weapons. So you're going to unlock your medium cannon and medium howitzer from both of these 1939 techs, but you're not going to have medium medium cannon 2 until you're over here. Whereas if you only go down artillery, you're not going to get medium cannon until you're here. And then medium howitzers here. And I don't think anti-tank unlocks medium howitzer at all. But it does unlock a high-velocity cannon that's better against enemy tanks. Over here you got your AA. These provide anti-aircraft bonuses, and they also unlock the tank anti-aircraft guns and the ship anti-aircraft guns. So they are important for doing naval stuff. But all of these equipment that are listed here, these are foot, basically horse-drawn cannons, artillery of various kinds. You can put them into your infantry divisions to make them deal more damage, and that's the primary thing that artillery offers you. These are anti-tank guns are very good against tanks. They provide some support against tanks. Basically, as long as your anti-tank guns are up to date, the numbers, you can kind of go toe-to-toe with, you can, as long as you've got a suitable anti-tank, I think 2 anti-tank battalions, you can go toe-to-toe with medium infantry of the same, medium tanks of the same era, and you'll be fine. You'll be able to pierce their armor. If you only have support, then you'll only be able to pierce light armor, but still having a little bit of anti-tank is better than having none. And then over here you got rocket artillery, which is an alternate type of artillery. Whether rocket artillery or traditional artillery is better is kind of a conversation for people who are more technically inclined when playing this game than I am. There's definitely opinions on both sides, is my understanding. Next we're going to go to tanks. Tanks are very interesting in this game. There's a whole lot to be done. There's a big old tank designer, we're going to talk about that. But basically, here's the essence of the tech tree. You got your interwar tanks here. You got your medium column here, your light column here, and your heavy column over here. And over here you got your super heavies, your king tigers and whatnot. These are the chassis. You can definitely keep those up to date if you want to be using tanks. You got your amphibious tank chassis over here, amphibious drive over here. This is going to let you apply the amphibious trait to all tanks, which significantly reduces their reliability, speed, and overall effectiveness, but it also makes a huge reduction in their amphibious invasion penalty, which means you can use tanks in an amphibious invasion, which is really, really strong. And then over here you got your armor and engine bonuses. What these are going to do is they're going to let you increase the armor and engine values for your tanks, and we're going to talk more about that in when we talk about the tank designer, but basically, if you want to keep your tanks up to date, you got to keep up with the armor and engines as well as artillery, because as I said, these are going to unlock the cannons for the tanks, and there's not much use having a tank if you don't have a good cannon to stick on the turret, or the fixed chassis if you use the fixed chassis, which I do sometimes. We're almost done with tech. Let's go to air next, and then we'll do naval. So over here we have airframes. We got our interwar set here for light, medium, and heavy. Our 1936 set here, light, medium, and heavy. 1940, 1944, and 1945, the modern ones, which are only available if you research jet engines. Light aircraft are very modular in Hearts of Iron 4 now. It used to be there were 6 lines. One for fighters, close air support, and light naval bombers. One for heavy fighters. One for medium, versatile medium bombers, and one for strategic bombers. Now you can do a bunch of things with a bunch of different things, and we'll talk more about that in the air designer. But basically, in my opinion, the lightest ones are the most important, and if you don't have a lot of research capacity, you should focus on the light ones. Medium ones are interesting and versatile, and heavy ones are pretty much only for strategic bombing, in my humble opinion. No offense to them. Over here you got your weaponry. Here's your bombs, and you're going to need that to get heavy bombs and armor-piercing bombs. Over here you got your light machine gun. Here's your camera, and here's your engines. Light machine gun splits off into survivability studies, which lets you get some really important stuff like armor plates and self-sealing fuel tanks. Heavy machine guns here are kind of the gold standard in fighter technology. Cannons here are good for fighter bomber stuff, and you get upgraded cannons here and more upgraded cannons down here. These are torpedoes. They are very important for naval bombing. You're definitely going to want to use more of these as your if you're trying to win wars using carrier planes. And then over here, there's engines. And you got over here aircraft construction, which unlocks a bunch of interesting modifications for aircraft. And then over here, you have range improvements, which unlocks extra fuel tanks. And my favorite upgrade, the drop tank. You get more thrust and lift as you increase your engine capability, and that's going to allow you to deploy planes with more stuff in them. We'll talk more about that when we talk about the aircraft designer, but the takeaway is engines are really important. If you're doing fighters, it's very important to get up to heavy MG. If you're doing close air support, all you need is the regular bombs. And then the more complicated stuff you're going to do, the more of this you're going to want. But survivability studies is important when you can get it, and range improvements is important when you can get it, and so is aircraft construction. I don't tend to use recon aircraft. It didn't launch. It wasn't present in game launch. I don't know how important it is. Maybe I'm really missing out. We'll find out. Finally, let's go to naval and talk about what's available here. So once again, we got our 1922, 1936, 1940, and 1944. We got a bunch of different ship types, and I'm going to go through all of them. Ship construction is also modular in the game, so you can do a bunch of different stuff with a lot of different stuff, but here's the basics. Destroyers are very small ships. They are designed to do anti-submarine warfare. The break-offs, that's the primary thing that they're for. The word destroyer refers to a torpedo boat destroyer, and most torpedo boats in World War II are going to be submarines, though not all of them. Some of them are going to be destroyers and cruisers as well. The break-off technologies from those are passive and active sonar. Those are going to help you detect submarines. You got your smoke generators here, which increases fleet speed while fleeing. And then you got your depth charge technologies here that you can get successively stronger depth charges to use against enemy submarines. Cruisers are a very versatile type of ship that you can use as both light and as both standard screening and capital ships. Screening and capital is not, it's not light and heavy, it's screening and capital. Light cruisers are screen ships, heavy cruisers are capital ships. So you can get different types of gun batteries on cruisers. You can do a lot with cruisers. You can use them as torpedo boats if you want to. You can also use them as line ships to augment your base damage. You can put light batteries on them to get extra light attack. You can put heavy batteries on them to get extra heavy attack. Or you can chock them full of AA to build a design I tend to refer to as the rude-ass cruiser. It's extremely rude. You put them in your carrier fleets, and basically your enemy shows up with a bunch of planes, and you go, bracka, 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 and their planes all die. It's very cute. Over here you've got the improved airplane catapult. This lets you... The airplane catapult is a module you can put on your cruisers to improve their surface detection. Detection is very important for ships because the ocean is really big and doesn't have a lot of terrain in it, and finding the enemy is really important if you want to fight them. Knowing is half the battle, as General Infantryman Joseph of American popular culture once said, and a big part of the battle is knowing where your enemy is, and arguably more importantly, knowing where you are. And detection is a big important part of that. Cruiser and battleship armor lets you increase the armor of your ships. That's over here in the naval, in the base naval tree. And then down here we've got battleships, carriers, and submarines. Battleships, you know what battleships are. They're big, they're heavy. You put a lot of guns on them, you shoot at enemy ships with them. Carriers are a little different. You put planes on them, and the planes bomb enemy ships. They can also shoot down planes from enemy carriers. That's very important. Maximum number of carriers in any carrier battle is 4. That's one of those weird things. And then over here you got submarines. Submarines are really hard to find. That's the primary thing they're good at. They're not very fast. They don't have very strong attack capabilities, but they're very good at not being in a battle they don't want to be in. The counter to them is destroyers. And actually, if you've got a solid submarine fleet and you've done a lot of damage to your enemy's destroyers, you can actually inflict significant casualties on enemy heavy ships by using submarines. But because there's not micromanagement for navies, that tends to not really be much of a strategy, in my humble opinion. So yeah, you got one of these for each level. And over here you got periscope technologies, which reduces submarine visibility. And then last but not least, you got your naval support technologies. Over here you got your gun batteries at the top here, light, medium, and heavy. You've also got some passive bonuses here in the form of armor-piercing shells. Offshoot of your light battery, you've got your basic dual-purpose battery and your improved and advanced dual-purpose batteries. Those let you build batteries that are both light batteries and anti-aircraft batteries. They're very cool. There's an advanced medium dual-purpose battery, which I did not know about. I don't tend to be doing a lot of naval stuff by 1944. I've either completely won or completely lost the naval war, and that just kind of is what it is. Down here, you got your torpedo techs. Submarine torpedoes unlock with the submarine technology, but ship-launched torpedoes need to be independently researched, and they're in here. These are where you get your passive bonuses for torpedoes. These make them a lot stronger. This one increases attack, this one increases attack, and this one reduces reveal chance, which is your chance that shooting torpedoes will reveal to the enemy that you're there, which is very important for submarines. Damage control and fire methods are just generally quite useful for most types of ships. These provide reduced chance to get critically hit and reduce the effects of taking critical hits. They're all the same, they're each 10% each. And then fire control methods are 5% extra light and heavy attack for battleships and battle cruisers. This one gives 10% and then 5% more for heavy cruisers. And these ones provide 10% more and extra bonuses for light cruisers and destroyers. So these techs really make the difference in terms of your ability to your firepower for your main heavy ships. Below that, you got transports. These are going to affect your capacity for naval invasions. They also provide passive bonuses like invasion defense and preparation time. And then you get your advanced landing craft over here for the maximum capacity for naval invasions. And then finally, you got your mine warfare techs down here. This is submarine mine laying, this is mine laying, and these ones increase the damage of mines, your ability to avoid mines, extra submarine mine laying here, and some more mine stuff over here. Oh, airdrop mines, that's fun. That's your naval bombers drop mines. That's pretty neat. As you might guess, I don't actually do a lot of mine laying stuff, so I don't tend to do mine warfare. It is a big part. Submarines and mine warfare are both big parts of asymmetric naval warfare. They're kind of how you win a war as a country that doesn't have the capacity to build a giant navy. So that's what they're for. They have a unique place in the tech tree. They're the kind of small counter to the big. They definitely got their use, but I don't tend to use them that much. But yeah, that's the whole tech tree. And that's what's going on in Hearts of Iron 4, and now you can have a basic sense of what I'm doing when I flip between these techs trees and assign my techs, and my broad logic when I'm assigning them. So, that is what's going on with the tech trees in Hoi 4. I've had a good time. I hope you all have had a good time, and I'll see you all on the other side.